Hello and welcome back to our hashtag I Feel Like Talking discussion today. I'm delighted to be joined again by my co-host Caitlin from the Young Scot Health Panel, and Becky also joins us again from children's mental health charity Place2Be.
This is our second instalment of our three-parter where we're chatting about suicide and self-harm. In this video, we'll be talking about how you can get support if you're struggling with suicidal thoughts and are thinking about self-harming. A reminder that the topic may be upsetting or triggering to some, however, we will be sharing lots of great information about how you can get support if this is something that affects you.
So with that, let's get right into it. We have more questions that we want to get through. We're going to be putting Becky on the spot again. All of the questions in this video are about how you can get support if you're struggling with any of the issues that we've spoken about suicide or self-harm in the first part of the series. So the first question that we have is, it's all about taking that first step. So how can you reach out to someone if you want help or support?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think it's about picking somebody that you trust. And again, I think I said in the previous video, it's going to be different for everybody, whether that's a friend, whether that's family, whether that's, somebody within your school, for example, your teacher or somebody else, or whether that is, a professional. I think sometimes, what prevents people from reaching out, particularly with family, actually, is just their reaction, to how you might be feeling. So I suppose I would say, if this feels, too daunting, it's perhaps that you want to sort of take that into your own hands and speak with a professional. And I think we highlighted lots of organisations, but I'll do it again. So I would say your GP is a really good first port of call. The Samaritans are great, both online and the services that they provide too. And if you're under 18, there's Childline too. So that's 0800 1111. There's also Give Us a Shout, which is a fantastic 24/7, text service. So you would just start your text to start like that dialogue going with them with Connect. And the number for that is 85258. I suppose whoever you choose to connect with and who you choose to tell about what's going on for you, it's just being mindful that you don't let like shame or embarrassment get in the way of you getting the help that you need. And when you do speak with somebody, just really try to bear in mind that, you don't want to be minimizing it, try as much as you can to be honest about what's going on for you and to describe, the severity of what it is that's happening for you. And I suppose for some, another barrier can be that they don't feel comfortable sort of verbalizing it. So speaking to somebody can be difficult. And let's face it, these are difficult things to put into words, aren't they? And I would say, shout is a really good option actually in those sort of scenarios. Is there a way that you can put that, in a message? Can it be like online? Can you have your dialogue in another way? The main thing is that you're having that dialogue,
So I know that you mentioned there about speaking to someone that you trust, and the next question we have is actually, how do you know you can trust people without them telling other people? So for example, this is from the question, if I were to tell my friend that I self-harmed or had suicidal thoughts, they would go straight to either my parents or a teacher. So how do I know that I can talk to them without them going straight to someone else?
Mm-hmm. It's a really difficult one, isn't it? And I think it's a big anxiety for people. But I suppose I would say that you can never guarantee that by telling your friend or a member of your family that that they're not going to pass it on to somebody else, and they might need to do that, in order to keep you safe and in order to have your needs met at that time, like depending on the severity of the nature of the issues that you're sharing with them. I suppose what I would say is that if it is a trusted person, I would hope that you could have the conversation with them about how much control that you can have in that scenario. So for example, if it was a friend and they thought they should really involve your teacher in this, you know, they didn't feel equipped to support you with this alone, you might want to think about, well, you know, how do I want this piece of information to be communicated? And actually, who do I want it to be communicated to? You know, so it could be, maybe it's a doctor, maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's a parent. So, you know, you still have choices, is what I'm saying, you know, in the scenario where a piece of information, your piece of information, your story would have to be passed on. And you also might want to think about like how that's passed on. You know, it might be something that you want to do yourself. It might be something that you want to do with your friend. It might be something that you want your friend to pass on. You don't want to be involved in like the telling of that story. So it depends on the severity of what's shared, but I would say it's probably only right, actually, that your friend, you know, would want to involve a wider network of people around you, but you can still have control over that, you know. Does that answer the question, Caitlin?
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer, Becky. This question it moves on from that, but I know you touched on a lot of great resources and organisations in your first answer.
Yeah.
But it's people who don't have that support around them, or who maybe don't feel comfortable speaking to a friend or a family member, or someone else that they would trust in their day-to-day lives. Who can they reach out to, and you know, what kind of options are there for those people in terms of reaching out and speaking to someone and getting the support that they need?
Absolutely. I mean, I would say that there are lots of places to get really good information, and I would say that probably in that scenario it's about sort of educating yourself. So there are great resources. I know we've mentioned lots already, but there's Mind, there's a great website called Harmless, and also Staying Safe. So that would really give you time to sort of think about your next steps and sort of digest what you might do next. I suppose I just want to emphasize that, you know, if you are feeling suicidal and you have a plan, that, you know, it is a medical emergency, and you know, the A&E and 999 are there to help you in that scenario. But I know that that's not the case for everybody. It might be that you just have suicidal feelings, for example, or you're wanting some advice around self-harm. So I think the sort of psychoeducative, you know, stuff, all the information that's out there is a really good place to start, and they've got great signposts in there too.
So what are the options for young people when they're concerned about confidentiality then? Because I know that question is particularly relevant for young people, because I think there can be a bit of a grey area when they're seeking help.
Yeah, I mean, it's hugely anxiety provoking, isn't there? And I think we've talked about feelings of guilt and shame that go along with it, which, you know, quite often does prevent or they can feel like a barrier, can't they, you know, to you being able to communicate that. And there can often be like the worry about the impact on friends and family, etc. But I suppose I would just sort of relate back to my previous answers, really, Caitlin. So I would say, you know, seek the advice, go on the websites, you know, that we've suggested. But think about, you know, when you are ready to talk to somebody, think about somebody that you trust to start with, and remember that you do still have control within that, you know, and even if they have to sort of breach your confidentiality, that you still have choices within that, and it's done with good intent. It's done to support you and keep you safe.
Fantastic. And yeah, you're absolutely right. You always have a choice, and there is always some avenue that you can go down. And I think something that you've touched on a couple of times is perhaps people have those feelings of being ashamed, or something along those lines. And it's important that, you know, you shouldn't feel ashamed, because this kind of thing, these kind of thoughts can happen to anyone, and it happen to lots of people across Scotland, across the world. So never feel shame in having to reach out and speak to someone about it. But with that, that brings us to the end of the questions that we wanted to get through with this video, the second in a three-parter. So thanks once again to Becky for joining us and answering those questions for young people.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And also remember to check out our first video if you want to know more about suicide and self-harm, and keep an eye out for the third and final instalment where Rebecca will be telling us about how you can support someone that you know who's having thoughts of suicide or self-harm.
And most importantly, just before we finish, just to reiterate one last time that if you do need help or support, please do reach out, speak to someone that you trust, or reach out to one of the organisations that we've discussed over the course of the conversation, anyone that you're comfortable speaking to.